Hey everybody, it's Ron from Pick Dawgz, and this is Ron's Rundown. We're going to go over the MLB games scheduled for Monday, May 1st, 2023. Now, if you like what you see, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to put your baseball picks in the comment section below. And if you're looking for my best bets, you can find those at the Premium Picks tab at pickdawgz.com. Alrighty, let's get into it. We have a small card for Monday. Here are the games in Major League Baseball. First, we're going to see the Cubs and Nationals, and before that game, I just want to mention we got a doubleheader in the Braves and Mets series, and we don't do doubleheader games officially on the rundown because a lot of times the pitching information changes. With the starting pitchers listed from game one, sometimes they get scratched altogether, sometimes they move to game two, so it makes it really tricky to cover it on the rundown because we posted these videos the night before. But I want to mention I like the matchup for the Mets against Charlie Morton, and I like the Braves matchup against Tyler McGill, and right now it looks like they're going to be facing off against each other in game two, so if that is the pitching matchup, I'd lean towards the over. But in this Cubs-Nationals game, we look at Drew Smyly and Mackenzie Gore, a pair of lefties on the mound. I've mentioned that I really like backing Drew Smyly when he's pitching at Wrigley Field, but on the road, I've got mixed, emotions about his game. We've seen him pitch 2 road starts this season. One of those was a strong one against the Dodgers. The other one, he gave up 6 earned runs against the Reds. And the Nationals do a pretty good job at limiting strikeouts against left-handed pitchers, and they have their best starter so far in the rotation going in this game in Mackenzie Gore. He's 3-1 with a 3.00 ERA. He's striking out a ton of batters, 35 Ks in 27 innings. He's limiting sharp contact, only 2 home runs allowed this season. The Cubs have to go from Miami to D.C., while the Nationals get to stay at home. We saw the Nationals earn a big victory as the underdog on Sunday. I think they do the same here. I'm going to take that plus money with the Washington Nationals on the money line. Next up, it's the Cleveland Guardians taking on the New York Yankees. Cal Quantrill and Domingo Germán on the mound in this one. Now, we saw these teams play a series already once this season, and this is kind of emerging as a rivalry in the American League as we saw them play in the playoffs last year. They played in the playoffs quite a few times in the last decade, and they, had some controversy in the regular season last year at Yankee Stadium with Stephen Kwan and Miles Straw in the outfield with some fans. So, definitely, a nice, should be a fun series to watch, entertaining series back at Yankee Stadium. But, Domingo Germán already pitched against the Guardians once, and, he wasn't the sharpest in that game. He went 3 innings. He didn't strike out a single batter. He had 5 walks allowed in that game. So, sure, he only gave up 1 earned run, and the final score was 3-2, but he still was not very sharp, and he's a strikeout-dependent guy facing a lineup that just doesn't strike out much against, right-handed pitchers or really left-handers at all. And Cal Quantrill on the other side, he has really struggled himself. We saw his last start against the Colorado Rockies at home, where, the Rockies on the road offensively have not been very good. He still gave up 8 base hits, 5 earned runs, and a homer in those 3 1/3 innings. So tough to really trust either of these starting pitching options in this game. And, the Yankees' bats obviously missing guys like Judge and Stanton in the lineup, but I think they still do enough damage here against Quantrill. I think the same is going to be done here for Domingo Germán. So give me the over in the Guardians-Yankees battle. Next up, it's the Toronto Blue Jays taking on the Boston Red Sox. We're going to see Jose Barrios and Corey Kluber on the mound in this one. Now, yes, it may be difficult to back Jose Barrios in a road start. We know he struggled so badly on the road last year and to start this season, but he has still been the better pitcher as of late compared to Corey Kluber. And, Barrios pitched well in his last road start against the Astros, going 7 innings of 2-run ball. He didn't strike out a lot of guys, but, it's a tough team to strike out. And Corey Kluber on the other side has given up a ton of home runs. He's only got 20 strikeouts in 24 innings. His control has been off, and his last start wasn't a bad one at all. He went 6 innings, 1 earned run, but still gave up a home run in that game. He's given up at least 1 home run in each of his first 5 starts of the season. Blue Jays have a pretty powerful lineup themselves, and I think they'll be able to get to Kluber enough for Barrios to have a good enough run support to win this game for Toronto. So give me the Toronto Blue Jays on the road on the money line. Next up, we see the San Francisco Giants taking on the Houston Astros. Ross Stripling and Luis Garcia are your starters. Now, this game and the Reds and Padres games are pretty unprecedented games in terms of handicapping because they're the games after a Mexico City series, and we saw how the altitude really affected, especially the first game in that series where there was it was a 16-11 final score, home runs, 440 plus feet left and right from both teams. I do think when you see we talk about how teams that play at Coors Field go on the road, they struggle offensively in those first few games, especially that first game without a day's rest, because it's really difficult for these position players and these hitters to adjust to the new altitude. And, for me, I'm going to be looking to fade the Giants and the Padres offensively in their first games back, and especially with Luis Garcia pitching a lot better recently. His first few starts were not good at all. His last 2 starts have been outstanding. 13 innings combined against the Blue Jays and Rays, 2 very good lineups with 16 strikeouts. So, shutout baseball, you'll take that all day long from Luis Garcia. I think he pitches well here. The Giants have hit righties well, but like I said, coming back from from that Mexico City series with no days off. I do think they're going to, be affected, those position players, with that altitude. And Ross Stripling on the other side, not really a starter I look to back very often. 6.89 ERA. He doesn't really have the best strikeout stuff. He's not really the most consistent pitcher. Doesn't pitch too deep into ball games. So a Giants bullpen that was used pretty heavily in that series in Mexico, it's going to be used again here, and I don't like their chances. So give me the Houston Astros. I'm going to lay the 1.5 runs. Next up is the Cincinnati Reds taking on the San Diego Padres. We're going to see Luke Weaver and Blake Snell on the mound in this one. Now, we faded Blake Snell in each of his first 5 starts this season in the regular season, and the Padres are 0-5 straight up in those games, and they've lost 4 of those 5 games by 2 or more runs. You could go ahead and fade Blake Snell here if you want and get that plus money, but for me, I'm looking at the under in Cincinnati, San Diego. I mentioned I wanted to fade those Padres bats in their first game back from Mexico City without a day off. And, it's not the easiest thing to do with the Reds and Luke Weaver, but he is still a guy that earns a lot of strikeouts, 16 strikeouts in 11 2/3 innings. He has issues with the long ball, and he gives up sharp contact, but against the Padres, off of that series, I do think we're going to see some sluggish bats from San Diego, and I think this is actually a pretty decent spot for Luke Weaver to have a bounce-back outing. Blake Snell is facing a Cincinnati Reds lineup that is struggling against left-handed pitching on the road. They're 22nd in team OPS and 26th in isolated power against those lefties away from home. 24% strikeout rate, pretty high for a team. And, I do think Snell has improved his game, even though his control's still off and even though he's given up the home runs. His last 2 games against the Braves and Cubs, 2 very strong lineups. He went 10 innings combined with 10 strikeouts and only 4 earned runs allowed. So I do think he's improving. I think this is a good spot for him to have a shutdown quality start. So give me the under here in Cincinnati, San Diego. Next up, we see the Philadelphia Phillies taking on the Los Angeles Dodgers. We're going to see Taijuan Walker and Tony Gonsolin on the mound. This is going to be your final game for Monday's card in Major League Baseball. Now, I like what the Philadelphia Phillies are doing, and this is a team that's had to play without Bryce Harper in the lineup since the beginning of the season, and some of their better starters in the rotation struggled, had a rough start to the year, Zach Wheeler and Aaron Nola, and they're still playing winning baseball. They look competitive in that series against the Astros. But this is a really brutal spot for the Phillies. I mean, they're on the road trip. They obviously had to play on Sunday against the Astros. They had to play the Sunday night baseball game, which, a lot of people fade those Sunday night baseball teams, whether they're the home team or the road team, but especially those road teams that have to go from Houston to Los Angeles, different time zone. 2 very good teams. The Dodgers are playing really good baseball right now after a slow start to the season. We saw them play really well this weekend against St. Louis, sweeping that series and winning those games pretty convincingly. So really tough spot to be in for the Phillies. Taijuan Walker has also not been very good on the mound this season. 4.97 ERA his last start, giving up 2 home runs, making it 3 home runs in his last 10 1/3 innings. Really tough to get behind the Phillies in this one. Give me the Los Angeles Dodgers on the money line. I'm going to lay some on the run line as well. And that's it. Those are the baseball games for Monday. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. And don't forget to put your baseball picks in the comments section below. Again, if you're looking for my best bet, you can find those at Pick Dawgz Premium. As always, this is Ron Romanelli. Good luck.